Hello everyone, this is John from RPGs and More, and in today's video, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about some notebooks that I found during a recent shopping trip that a friend took me on to a local Daiso store. This is not a store I typically shop at, so it was kind of fun to get there. Now, it's not unreasonable for me to get there, it's just not something that I usually do. And so I was a little surprised by some of the things that I found there, some things that I hadn't really thought of, and if I had seen them in the past, hadn't thought of in the context of gaming. But during this visit, I was specifically looking out for materials that could be used to enhance gaming. And I found something. So first, here's a drink of a little bit of apple juice in a comically fancy glass. Just going to take a sip to keep the lips wet. All right, the notebook I found that I wanted to point out to you is this. What this is, if I am understanding it correctly, because a lot of this is in Japanese, and beyond that, it's also, I can't read the typeset because the print's really small. But so these are 5mm squares. It's graph paper. I don't know if you can see that. What it is it's a graph paper that has 4 squares are grouped into one larger square. The one larger square has a darker line around it, and everything is put into this graph. And there's a border around the edges. Now, I believe that this booklet is designed to either help with math or to help specifically with the writing of kanji. I could be wrong. This is only a guess. So if I am wrong, I apologize. And I will accept the education because that's part of what life is all about. But the reason why this notebook kind of stood out to me is because those 4 squares grouped together reminded me of Dwarven Forge terrain. Because at least in the set that I have, which is the Dwarvenite from way back in their first Kickstarter, before they started doing things with magnets and stuff, almost all of their pieces are 2x2 or 4 squares. And so you could easily take this notepad and with assuming 1 piece per bigger square, you can draw out your dungeon and know exactly what Dwarvenite pieces you would need from your Dwarven Forge set in order to put stuff out. Now, let's say you were also using those Jenga blocks, not Jenga, the dollar store tumbling towers blocks that I showed you guys a while ago. You can make Dwarven Forge sized, although not as precise, floor tiles with those. And you can also use that in order to kind of draw out your map a bit. If you have picked up the locking pegboard terrain bits, those are also, a lot of them are set up in 2x2 4 square blocks. And so that would also work here. Not everything is. Some of them are a bit different size, and so you would have to modify things as you wish. I would recommend, if you're doing that, to create little templates. In like you're on the first page of the notebook, kind of draw out a template and say, this is what this piece looks like to yourself. That way, whenever you're planning, you can just refer back to that first page and say, oh yeah, that's the size of that piece. And that can be really useful. The other useful part about this is there aren't that many pages to this notebook. It's a little notebook. And at least, let's see, it will sit relatively flat, all things considered, on the tabletop without too much pressure. I'm putting a little pressure on this, but not too much. So it is fairly useful at the table. But it's not so thick with so many pages that you're going to get lost. I mean, this is basically, if you do a map a week for your campaign, this one book will probably fit the majority of your campaign in it. Probably all of your campaign, especially if you tend to run shorter campaigns, which most of us, even though we might want to run longer campaigns, tend to run shorter ones. So it's kind of a perfect size. I wanted to bring it to people's attention. I think the 5mm is a pretty good one because that gives me, with my visual impairment, a large enough space to kind of draw on without, worrying about getting things lost. And you just, you draw in your squares and you just darken the line where the wall bits of the Dwarven Forge are going to be and what have you. But there was one other thing that I found that I thought was kind of neat. And this is it's a very basic drawing pad. The key parts of this drawing pad are it is spiral bound, it is, I forget what this, I think it's like basically a metal comb, essentially. But it is bound nicely with metal. It has these thick plastic card covers. And then on the inside, you've got blank pages for drawing. Now, you can get these kind of books at most art shops. Like if you've got a Michaels around and you can get something like this. What made this one stand out is the fact that it's not very thick. And so I could easily imagine, this is just for one campaign. I'm going to draw things out. And then when I fill it up or when the campaign is over, I can put it on the shelf and then pull it out for the next campaign. Pull it out if I ever want to revisit that campaign and update it. But I'm not dedicating myself or, my campaign to a larger notebook and then, get disappointed when you realize that you didn't fill as much. So that's a thought. And I just thought it was interesting. I thought I'd share those two notepads. Again, I found them at my local Daiso, which means that if you have a Daiso around, and you might be able to find something similar. If you don't, you could probably find them online. You just have to know what search terms to use. And I can't really help with that one because I did not find them online. I did not even know that the 4x4 books existed until I went in there. And as soon as I went in there, I said, oh, this is probably what that is. This makes sense. It works for me. So I also found brushes right here for a decent price. Not crazy cheap, but a decent price. And I'm always on the lookout for some cool looking brushes to use for my painting hobby. And these seem like, they're a bit on the larger size, but they have a good point to them. And they're designed for drawing things, they're fine point brushes is how they're described. And I think they're designed mostly for painting, for not painting in the traditional sense, but for writing your letters. Your Japanese kanji, I think, is the term. And I think that's awesome. And I'm also thinking to myself, these would probably do fairly well for painting some of my miniatures, or painting, painting terrain pieces if I decide to do that. So that was kind of fun. It was a fun little find. All right. That's pretty much it for this video. This is going to be a shorter one. I just wanted to share a few things that I found that I thought were kind of fun. And the next video, I'll go on a bit longer about a different topic. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you for stopping by, and peace be with you. If you enjoyed this video, please go ahead and like the video. I would appreciate a comment. Let me know if you enjoy the shorter or the longer term videos, because the shorter ones are sometimes harder to make because I tend to ramble, but the longer ones are harder to upload because I tend to get errors and I have to try to upload it 2 or 3 different times before it finally works. So let me know what people kind of prefer, and I'll see if I can try to amend myself if I must, or expound upon my thoughts if that's what people prefer more. I'm thinking about that because yesterday I did an over like an hour and 20-minute long video, and I thought it was kind of fun, but I think in the long run I kind of jabbered on a bit too much and I lost the plot. So I didn't upload it. Um, I realized I might have said a few things that I didn't really believe as much. I just was saying them in the heat of the conversation of the moment that I was having with you, aka also like having it with myself. And so I decided not to post it. And I won't post it, but I might revisit those topics in smaller videos and little smaller chunk sizes. We'll see. Anyway, you did not need to know all that, but that's kind of where the germ of this, like, I wonder if shorter videos might be better, thing came from. Anyway, hope you have a good night. Thank you for stopping by, and peace be with you. Bye-bye.